Well, hello there, friend. Welcome back to the Construction Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Bradley Hartmann. The title of today's episode is What to Do When What You've Been Doing No Longer Works. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Well, that seems very broad. Bradley, can we get a little more specific? And that answer is yes. Yes, we can. Without a clear understanding of what drives success during the good times, you'll struggle to diagnose and fix problems during the inevitable tough times. The tribe thought it was pure magic. After thousands of years of isolation on a speck of sand in the middle of the South Pacific, these people lived as they always had. They made shelter from the materials the jungle provided. They hunted boar on the ground, birds in the sky, and fish in the sea. Their wisdom, the collection of shared assumptions about how their world worked, was literally tribal in nature. Knowledge and insights passed from one generation to the next through behavior modeling and word of mouth. Now, quick sidebar here. In much the same way, this potentially apocryphal story has been handed down from one generation to the next in leadership and management circles. No, there was no hacking this type of wisdom. Immersed with the tribe, the wisdom oozed into your pores. Then, the men dropped out of the sky. Giant canoes, so large they could hardly be called such, carved into the beaches, and even more men spilled out. The aliens arrived with advanced technology and cargo beyond the wildest dreams of the tribal shaman. Roaring machines, useful tools, exotic foods. These foreigners generously shared much of this mysterious cargo with the tribe. Among others, hunting knives and power drills, Zippos and radios, Baby Ruths and Jack Daniels. Apparently, in exchange for transforming their little island through the construction of runways and control towers, hangars, and barracks. And then, World War II ended. Planes departed from the airstrips for the last time. Control towers were abandoned. And just like that, the aliens were gone. Their magical cargo, too. The islanders, however, weren't willing to abandon the upgrades in their lives. So the women wove flags from the giant banana trees. They coached tribesmen to stand on the airstrip and wave them around, just like they observed the aliens do. The men built small fires next to the burnt-out light bulbs running down the perimeter of the airstrip. A tribal elder appeared with a large coconut shell on his head. Small efflorescent vines perforated his helmet on one side, securing a small bamboo shoot that extended in front of his mouth. The old man jiggled it up and down with a practiced nonchalance, mimicking every control tower operator he had studied. These were the behaviors, rituals, and practices that led to success. Thousands of hours of direct observation confirmed this. The tribe's new playbook was executed for months, yet no cargo arrived. So the tribe initiated small changes to their work. The old man in the control tower was replaced with someone younger, more vigilant. The banana flag man received coaching to increase productivity. The compensation plan for the airstrip fire control team was reevaluated. A new incentive was added: pickled wild boar spleens. Fermented to perfection in thistleberry juice and typically reserved for elders were now on the table. And yet, nothing worked. No planes returned. The tribe continued to experiment. They guessed, hoped, and prayed. What worked before no longer did. As the decades passed, the story of the aliens and their magical cargo became tribal folklore. Salt, wind, and sea deconstructed what the foreigners had built. All that remained was a few treasured artifacts collected by the tribe. An empty Coca-Cola bottle, a rusted crescent wrench, and a cockpit compass whose magic was, somehow, forever retained. In his 1974 commencement address to the graduates of Caltech, the legendary physicist Richard Feynman referred to the story as cargo cult science. His message to these graduates was, when you get out there into the real world, make sure you know what you think you know. Because a lot of people, smart people even, don't. This was his quote. It's a kind of scientific integrity, a principle of scientific thought that corresponds to a kind of utter honesty. The kind of honesty that has you leaning over backwards. For example, if you're doing an experiment, you should report everything that you think might make it invalid, not only what you think is right about it. Other causes that could possibly explain your results, and things you thought of that you've eliminated by some other experiment and how they've worked. All this to make sure the other fellow can tell that they've been eliminated. Feynman is referring to a process that yields the opposite of tribal wisdom. It's a process that drills down to first principles. It's challenging yourself and your team with this question. How do we really know this method works, in good times and bad? Addressing this question now is crucial because, for the first time in over a decade, much of what has worked isn't working now. For context, here's a quick bullet point recap beginning circa 2001. Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan is a genius. Widespread financial idiocy blossoms. 2006. Housing values never go down. Is proven false. 2008. Lehman Brothers collapses. Great Recession swallows the globe. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan is an idiot. 2011. Home prices begin to stabilize. 2012 to 2019. An 8-year run of success for the construction industry. The first quarter of 2020, COVID-19 arrives, the world jams both feet on the brake pedal. Second quarter 2020, all the way through the end of 2022, construction industry jams both feet on the gas pedal. The last 2 years have led to a Feynman-like reckoning of their tribal wisdom. Do we have any real process integrity? And, gulp, is it possible that our success has largely been due to a decade of economic wind at our backs? If we believe in our ability to deliver persistent, differential profitability, why are we regressing to the mean, along with most of our competitors? Is it possible we're just like nearly every other tribe out there, fishing in canoes that rise and fall with the economic tide? This evaporation of perceived exceptionalism has forced some leaders to challenge their thinking. The rest of their team, however, well, less so. For example, the lumber and building materials supply sector has hired a decade's worth of salespeople that have never had to prospect for new business or forecast future sales. A time management system with any more integrity than an Outlook calendar and a notebook has proven to be entirely optional. The sales rep asks, why do I have to prospect and forecast now? I've been doing this for a decade and I've been really successful. Answer, nearly everyone in your position over the last decade has been successful. Your sales have been trending down for 2 years, and the fundamentals of deliver value first prospecting, intelligent pipeline management, and proactive time management are the methods that increase the probability of success in any market cycle. But it's hardly just the LBM reps who have come to understand what worked before isn't working anymore. It's as if the entire construction industry is realizing, after more than 4 years of saying, revenue generation just isn't a concern right now, that their sales process is not nearly as robust, methodical, or reliable as they thought. A commercial GC client has historically invested around $15,000 preparing bids for new work and subsequently won 20% of those pursuits. Over the last 24 months, the cost has increased north of $20,000 and the win rate has decreased by half. What used to work isn't working now. A luxury home builder recently wrote me, after 3 years of drinking from a fire hose, we have a real problem developing a proper backlog. We've fallen into a trap of trying to hook the customer with a couple of items, like foundation, and excavating prior to providing the full proposal. The homeowner then feels trapped when we do give them the price, but we're just trying to maintain forward momentum. I emailed back with candor. The "let's hook them with the foundation and get started" strategy feels like a worst practice to me. I wrote, "You'd be better off facing the brutal facts of a thin sales pipeline and adapt. Either get the homeowner to sign for the complete build or not at all, than to only build parts of the home and potentially damage your reputation." The company's core values, all detailed on their website, revolved around one noun and three verbs: relationships, communicate, listen, and care. It was clear the current processes were not in alignment with the espoused core values. More context was shared with me. The owner, acting as the primary salesperson, relies solely on his gut. His track record over the last decade has been good enough to validate that approach. His gut also calculates the budget in real time in front of homeowners, setting an anchor that has proven way too low over the last 2 years. Up until this year, the owner and his team never needed a sales process or pipeline. One project always followed the next, and they were able to keep their crews busy. But those days are over. So when we begin to deconstruct how things should work, clients often tell me, "Bradley, there's really no process in place here." But I've learned that's not true. It's just that there are multiple processes in place, all largely tribal in nature. The results are varied because the process varies. The most effective tool we've used to standardize any process with integrity, sales, operational, financial, or creative is the process stack. It's a checklist that identifies the vital few components of a predictable and repeatable process among the trivial many. There are 4 elements all stacked on top of one another like layers in a cake. Number 1, process. What are the critical steps in this process? This is ideally some number between 4 and 7. Number 2, activities. For each step in the process, what are the essential activities that must be done? Number 3, skills. For each activity in each step of the process, what skills must be acquired to complete it successfully? 4, tools. What tools, physical or digital, have been developed to increase the effectiveness of this step in the process? 4 parts all stacked on top of one another: process, activities, skills, and tools. The integrity underlying the process stack means it's not dependent on any single individual, but dependent on a role. So we replace, "Well, this is how Sam always did it and it worked pretty good," with this: "Regardless of who is involved today, this is how we begin the process of building new relationships and dream homes. This is the Johnson Homes way, and it's thoughtful and methodical." Now, this discipline of process integrity, it doesn't require Herculean effort. You can think of it as deconstructing the current process and placing each step in one of 3 buckets. Typically, the bucket labeled, "Oh, this definitely works, let's keep this," that gets filled pretty quickly alongside the one that says, "Oh, this definitely doesn't work, let's not do that ever again." Then there's a handful of steps in between that have never been fully examined that deserve some attention. In my new book, The Air Raid Sales Offense, I detail a process stack for sales teams. You can listen to episode 444 of this podcast to hear the first few chapters of the book, and you can buy the book or the audiobook at airraidSalesOffense.com. Developing processes that stand strong in all economic environments isn't magic. But like the constant assault of salt, wind, and sea on the abandoned military base, the combined forces of human nature and economic cycles, which are cause and effect really, have the power to deconstruct the strongest of corporate structures. Disciplined processes and humility must replace tribal wisdom and hubris. These 4 elements, process, activities, skills, and tools, this is your cockpit compass, pointing true north. It works in good times and bad. Use it, my friend, and you will avoid waving banana flags, wearing coconut helmets, and incentivizing your team with pickled wild boar spleens fermented to perfection in thistleberry juice. All right then, friends, thank you for listening. If you are part of our construction leadership newsletter, you will get access to this article in PDF form along with the tool for the process stack that gives you a template to create your own process, activities, skills, and tools to help you immediately. It becomes a simplified checklist of sorts to make sure we really know what we think we know. All right then, friend, that's all we've got. We will close out with our leadership mantra. You are owed nothing. Deliver value first. Make it a great week.